Quarter Open Training Program. My name is Obichukwu Azuka. I'm the managing consultant in UGN Consulting Services. And today I'll be handling the topic building and sustaining an ethical workplace culture. So for today, we're going to look at the following themes. We're going to look at some introduction, introducing culture, the types and elements. Then we'll look at workplace culture, what drives it and factors that influence it. Then we'll look at ethical workplace culture, the features of an ethical workplace culture. And we have a little class activity that we'll do under that session. Then we'll have another session on how to build and sustain ethical workplace culture. And then we'll end with a case study of an ethical workplace culture within a real life organization that has an ethical workplace culture. So, tone at the top, mood in the middle, and vibes at the floor. They are all important drivers of culture. If the tone at the top is wrong, then it's going to cascade down. If the tone at the top is not well communicated, it's going to be wrongly translated and interpreted to the operations. And you see that the culture will definitely not be what is intended. And when because at the top, the tone at the top is where you have your policies. The policies are set, the strategies is set, the strategies are set, the mission and the vision are set. So, and then the mood of the middle is where the standard, the SOPs are set. That's the tactics, the way we're going to do this. So it can be set in the middle, it can already be set at the top. So when these things that already been set are not lived up to, the tone at the top, it's not pushing it down, it's not communicating it by what they do. You see that's when you have the ideal culture and the real culture. The ideals, the core values, the missions, the visions, you see they become ideals and not reality. So the tone and the organizational structure, the hierarchy, the flow of the flow of information, the flow of authority is very important in culture. It drives culture. And again, the vibes at the operation, the vibes at the floor, at the bottom, is also very, very, plays a very significant part and actually execute the plans at the top. So the vibes is mainly what is seen, what is observed. What is the tone? What tone are we observing? That is what we're going to echo. What mood are we seeing in the middle? That is what we're going to vibrate. So the communication between these levels is very important in keeping a culture in check. It's very important in growing and improving a culture and making it to bloom. And it's also important in keeping the culture from deviating or deviating to what is not intended. So tone at the top, mood in the middle, and vibes at the bottom. Very important. The factors that influence workplace culture. So we did a survey. The survey is still ongoing on the top 7 factors that most influence culture at the workplace. And this is a graphic of the results that we are getting so far. And from what we can see, the number 1 factor that was identified based on the survey as the number 1 factor that the top number one factor that influences culture of the workplace. You have management and slash leadership style. Then number two is the company policies and structure. You see that 80.3%. And then you see organizational structure as another, as number three top factor. Then number four is work environment. You see it having 59.1%. 59.1% of the people that participated in the survey ranked work environment as a number, but the fourth factor that most influences culture at the workplace, work environment. Then number five is company values, the core values of the company. And number six is company values and company mission and visions were ranked, got the same ranking. The company values had 54.5% of participants, respondents ranked it as the fifth most influential, the fifth factor that most influence culture. And also company mission and vision also got the same rating. Then number six is employee mentality. That's the sixth factor that most influence culture in the workplace. Employee mentality, the mindset, the values, the shared values of the employees, employee mentality. And then employee mentality and informal norms and gestures actually had the same ranking as it were. So it's informal norms and gestures had 50% of respondents saying ranking it as the fifth, as the sixth factor that most influence, and also employee mentality. Then we have other factors like technology came at seventh most. Yeah, and the seventh factor. Then we have other factors that also came up. We have key clients coming up as the top eight, the eighth place. Key clients and regulators, and also communication. Both the two ranks the same. You can see it there, 34.8%, 34.8%. So key clients and regulators of an organization, they also influence culture in the workplace and the communication style. So it's interesting to see that the economy also made it to when I say the top 10, economy had 24.2%. So we're actually looking at the top seven, which anything that's among the top seven shows how significant it is, it's a big factor. It's a big factor that influences, it's a strong factor rather, that influences workplace culture, and it's something that must be looked at, something that must not be taken for granted. So based on this survey, it's interesting to note one of the things that fall out from this survey, the things that are external to the workplace did not even make up to the seven top most influential factors. So that shows us that the internal factors are the strongholds. They are the things that actually influence culture. And when we say that the fact that we say that culture is controllable, you can see it clearly from this survey that actually is controllable. Most of the factors that influence it are things that are internal to the organization. So based on this survey, and also based on our research work and our experience as management consultants, having worked for several organizations, we came up with what we came up with what we came up with this top 7 factors that influence workplace culture. So we have number 1, leadership and management. Number 2, organizational structure, policies and SOPs. Then we have 3, work environment. 4, company mission, vision and core values. 5, informal norms and practices. 6, employee mentality. And 7, communication style. Yes, in the survey, communication style was ranking around the 8th place, making a tie with key clients and regulators. But from research and from experience, we know that communication style is a very key factor, factor in shaping that influences workplace culture, because the leadership and management communicate culture through communication. Organizational structures, policies, and SOP, all those are communications. You write it down and it has to be communicated. It is read formally or orally. All these things are communicated. Company mission and vision and core values communicate. It's a communication issue. Informal norms and practices, all about communication. Employee mentality is everything's about communication. So communication style is a very important factor. It's a very important factor that influences culture. So that's why we ranked it among the top seven factors that most influence culture. And looking at it, we can see that number 1 to number 4 have to do with the tone at the top. It has to do with the management. And number 5 to 6, as it were, have to do with employees, as it were. So you see that management has a very key role to play in the workplace culture. Have a very key role to play in influencing and in shaping the culture of any workplace. Because the organizational structure, policies, and SOPs are laid down by management. The work environment is put in place by management. Because when we talk about work environment, it also includes the infrastructure, the ambience. It also includes the resources. It also includes the policies, that management has put in place for human resources, like for promotion and for discipline and all that. All those are also part of work environment. What is the work-life balance? All these things are how things, promotions are structured, the undertones and all that. This work environment, the interpersonal, the relationships, how is it toxic, is it warm? All those are part of the work environment, and all these things are largely set by management. So we see that management has a huge role to play in shaping and in managing and in managing the culture of a workplace. Whatever culture that's in the workplace is majorly attributable to the actions or inactions of management. So management has a key role to play, as well as the employees as well. Features of an ethical workplace culture. Number 1, an ethical workplace culture should show whether doing the right thing matters. It should show whether doing the right things matter. It's a place where doing the right thing matters. So it's also another feature is that it makes doing what is right expected. So in a culture where doing what is right is not expected, that's already raising that's already calling to question the ethics of that workplace culture. It's always going to question that this culture might not be ethical. If doing the right thing is not expected, then that's a whole lot. Then Three, it has formal systems and procedures, like what we talked about, the material culture. It has formal systems that are written down explicitly. They have different policies and codes of conduct, performance management procedures. They have whistleblowing policy, have ethical underlinings, as in ethics is upheld in the stories that you hear making rounds in the organization. And these stories, when you have stories, these stories that are passed from generation to generation. Like sometimes when you come into an organization newly, and when you come, they tell you, older staff will tell you stories that happened. And from that stories, you can infer how things are done in that organization. So stories, what are the stories of this organization? What are the stories that are being promoted? What are the rituals? What are the rituals? How are the greetings? Like in some organization, the greetings, you don't just greet and say hi. You say maybe hello, sir. And you use sir, you use ma. You can even gesturize the greeting, So all these are rituals. Well, these systems are recognized and they are acknowledged, and there's intentionality in shaping these informal systems, ethical principles of the organization. So the language, what are the language that you hear? Is it, like I said earlier, what gets done? What is not documented is not done. That's an ethical language. It promotes accountability in any organization. It also shows diligence. So that's a good language. And you hear some places, the language you hear is your father the owner of this organization? Is your father the owner of this company? That is an informal system that's already pushing an ethical agenda, as it were, on ethical behavior, as it were. Because when you hear such things like, is your father the owner of this company, means why are you putting your best in doing this? It's not, just do what you can do and go. You hear other languages like um the reward for hard work is more work. That's the same thing as, why are you stressing? Just do minimal and go your way. If you put in your best, they'll give you more work. So better save yourself that. So uh all those undertones, all those informal languages that fly around, that you hear around in the office, in the workplace, those are already telling stories. Those are already painting pictures and shaping behaviors and attitudes of the people. Before you know it, somebody that used to be diligent will start relaxing and dropping. And so an ethical workplace culture acknowledges and recognizes the informal systems and the impact of all these informal systems of practices on culture. And we have ethical leadership. That's very important. Ethical leadership. This is also a principle that is identified by the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants under their firm culture and governance um, elements of the eight elements of an ethical culture and governance. So ethical leadership is key, is important. And what I mean by ethical leadership is a leadership that leads, influences, and motivates by leading by example, setting the tone at the top, setting the ethical tone at the top. An ethical workplace culture should and support employee well-being. That's a feature of an ethical workplace culture. Where the well-being of the employees are not supported, are not cared about, that workplace is not ethical. Because it's employees that, like if we talk about the vibes, when the vibes are not, the vibes are coming from a place of unwellness, the vibes they're going to be emitting, their attitudes, the behaviors are not going to be wholesome. They're not going to be right, as it were. We're going to use the IASBA FCG elements that the International Ethics Standard report for accountants, firm culture and governance elements. So firm culture and governance is a project of the International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants, where they are that is dedicated to developing a framework that should help to build a strong ethical culture, build and sustain a strong ethical culture for firms, in response to to so many scandals that have been reported in the accounting industry. So the AISPA came up with this project, and part of the project, 8 elements have been identified as principles, and it is being called the firm culture and governance elements that are key in ensuring an ethical culture, firm culture and governance. These elements are key. These elements are important for firm culture and governance, but that's for firms to build strong ethical cultures. So so we can review after you have done you bridge the gap, review it against the standard, because it's not yet a standard as it were. Work is still going on, but these elements have been established. Then open discussion and challenge. That's also about the open and safe communication. The system you have in place, the system you have built for your culture to monitor, evaluate, and nurture your culture. Is there a system of, so this allows for open discussion and challenge? So this principle holds true, where people can openly and safely report unethical behavior, can easily challenge decisions and say, oh, this thing that we are going to do, this is actually the right thing we're supposed to do. The ethical thing we're supposed to do. I don't quite agree. And there's a safe discussion that at the end of the day that can shape the outcome and make it ethical as against being unethical. So open challenge, you can challenge respectfully decisions that have been made even by your superiors. So if there's room for that, that will help to sustain the ethical culture of that workplace. Then transparency. Is there transparency in communication? Is there transparency in reporting? Okay, this unethical behavior was reported and it's shushed. Nobody knows what happened again. Nobody knows the outcome and what happened. So that's not transparent. But when there's transparency, you see, okay, this is what happened, and this is how we addressed it, and this is how we managed it, and this is how it was concluded. That makes it transparent. Everybody sees the tone at the top play out. Everybody sees how it was done, and principle, as it were, that you can use to see if the framework for your culture that you have put in place is meeting best practice. Step 4, continuous monitoring and improvement. There has to be, after you have built your structure, you have to continuously monitor and improve it to sustain it. The continuous improvement is really heavy on this monitoring, enforcement, and evaluation. We thank you, and I hope you can always reach out to us to help you with some of the tools we have to help you in assessing your ethics and your workplace culture, and the tool we have for ethical dilemmas, resolving ethical dilemmas, and